Next on Currents News, a pandemic can't stop prayer or this procession, a strong showing of Catholic faith in very challenging times.
The iconic Giglio won't be lifted this year, but the people of the Brooklyn Diocese aren't letting the pandemic stop them from honoring Our Lady of Mount Carmel. I'm Jessica Easthope, and that's ahead.
Rededicated after being defaced, the men of Cathedral Prep showing their love for Mary is stronger than ever.
She guides us, to do good and to better ourselves.
Then another attack on the Blessed Mother in America's Southland, this statue beheaded. And the Big Apple's top cop saying its police are being handcuffed from doing their jobs.
There's a lot of agendas and there's a lot of politics involved and people distorting things.
Plus, the Vatican is taking new action tonight to protect children. It's going to spread around the world. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Emily Druby. Catholic strong, that's the watchword today in Brooklyn on a glorious feast day. The coronavirus is upending so many parts of our lives, but not when it comes to honoring Our Lady of Mount Carmel. It's a little different this year, but still Catholic strong. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story from Williamsburg.
Faith and devotion are alive in the Brooklyn Diocese. For the 133rd year, Our Lady of Mount Carmel was processed through the streets of South Williamsburg. Though her feast day is usually celebrated with the Giglio Festival, the pandemic kept the iconic 7-story statue on the ground this year. But people of the parish and across the diocese still made sure Our Lady of Mount Carmel was honored.
We weren't sure that this was even a possibility, so this is honestly a blessing for all of us to be able to be here with our family, with our loved ones, and take our mother out into the streets.
This is the first time in decades John Perrone hasn't lifted the Giglio, but he says his faith and gratitude to Our Lady is stronger than ever. It's reflected in his dedication to the procession.
To us, this is a very important element of it all, though, the most important.
Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio said Mass before the historic procession. He says, though the pandemic has changed the way we worship, it hasn't changed why.
All of the festivities are only pointing to one thing. We're happy. We're happy that this is the annual feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, our Heavenly Mother, who gives so many graces to the people who honor her. So those things are not essential. The essential thing is that we honor the Mother of God, and that's what this feast is about.
The annual Giglio feast helps sustain Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish financially all year. This year, the street in front of the church wasn't lined with dozens of vendors and people like years past, but Monsignor Jamie Gigantiello said the church found other ways to raise money.
They're donating all their proceeds today to the parish, and it's the two staples of the feast, Zeppoli and sausage and peppers. They're charging and everything will come back to the church. People are good, and we know Our Lady will watch over us, and this parish will be here for a long time.
Monsignor Jamie says he has no doubt the tradition's deep roots in the neighborhood and in the lives of those who participate will continue to grow.
People have such a great devotion and they want to come and honor our Blessed Mother. They make a sacrifice to come. So we know the next year is going to be a big year.
In Williamsburg, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
On this feast day of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, another sign of faith that has never wavered. The statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary is being rededicated in Queens. The monument is now spotless after a vandal defaced the Blessed Mother's image days ago. She served as a source of inspiration for students and the community in Elmhurst.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and
A special moment outside of Cathedral Preparatory School and Seminary.
Know her protection and trace in their hearts
A prayer service and rededication of this 100-year-old statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary, now restored after it was desecrated by spray paint almost a week ago.
Well, we pass it every morning, and Mary's, our mother, and she's our guidance sometimes, well, pretty much all of the time. she guides us, to do good and to better ourselves.
The rededication done on the feast day of Our Lady of Mount Carmel.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray.
Prep students, teachers, and staff put summer break on hold to pray outdoors at the school in Elmhurst, Queens.
Although I was upset, I knew that there was something good will always come out of evil. I know that Father Crowley was going to do something, that it would be cleaned eventually, and that Our Lady would not remain dirty.
Father James Caroli, the school's rector and president, says he's grateful to Catholic Cemeteries, the group responsible for quickly cleaning and restoring the Blessed Mother's monument. Last Friday, the statue was vandalized, the word idol written in thick black spray paint down the front. The incident is being investigated by the NYPD as criminal mischief. Police are still searching for this individual, completely covered in clothes and wearing a hat. They have not been able to determine if it's a man or a woman.
Suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died, and was buried.
But Thursday wasn't about anger towards the suspect. Instead, it was a celebration of the school's resilience and their faith.
What a beautiful sight it is that we're able to have a day where we're able to stand and seek her intercession with the students of Cathedral, with the faculty, and with members of the Elmhurst community to really show that our faith and our love does not waver, that it only gets stronger.
Police tell us since last Friday there are no updates to the case and they're still investigating. Tonight, police are also hunting for whoever scrawled hateful graffiti on Our Lady of Angels Church in Bay Ridge. Harmful words were found on the steps leading into the house of worship and on the outside walls of the building. The cops are labeling it as a case of aggravated harassment, and the NYPD's Hate Crimes Task Force is investigating. Anyone with information on either of these incidents is asked to call Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. Again, that's 800-577-TIPS. Another outrage against a statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary, this time in Tennessee. A 5-foot sacred monument to the Blessed Mother was beheaded and knocked to the ground outside St. Stephen's Church in Chattanooga. Local police are investigating the incident as a possible hate crime and have notified the Federal Department of Homeland Security. The pastor of St. Stephen's discovered the damage before Mass on Saturday. It was the third act of violence against a Marian statue in the United States this past weekend. In addition to the vandalism outside Cathedral Prep in Queens, a statue of Mary was set on fire in Boston, leaving her image covered in black soot. So far, there have been no arrests in any of these incidents. Mayor Bill de Blasio is going to war today with the boss of the NYPD's Sergeants Union. His Honor saying he has no respect for Union Chief Ed Mullins, calling him a disgrace and a liar. Mullins is a frequent critic of the City Hall. De Blasio sounding off a day after signing a slew of policing bills, including one that bans chokeholds. The mayor admits the changes will make it harder for cops to do their jobs, but the laws should make people feel safer.
We will work together. We will make these pieces of legislation work together. As with all legislation, if something happens that's unintended, we will name it and we will determine how to act together. But I have faith that we're in a moment of history where everyone is ready to do new things and do them better and do things that we thought we could not do before. In that spirit, we move forward.
De Blasio is insisting the new rules will help build the trust and accountability necessary for effective neighborhood policing. New York City's top uniformed cop is saying today that anarchists are guilty of the wild attack against cops on the Brooklyn Bridge. 4 officers were injured yesterday trying to arrest protesters. Chief of Department Terrence Monahan was one of the cops hurt. He says he's bruised, but okay. Monahan is accusing the attackers of being part of an anarchist group that's been infiltrating the Black Lives Matter movement, in his words, since the beginning. Monahan's boss, Police Commissioner Dermot SHEA, is responding bluntly on whether cops feel handcuffed in today's political environment.
I think they absolutely do. And if somebody thinks that's not the case, I think their head is in the sand. You have to recognize what's going on. The best police department in the world, as recently as a year ago, We were being heralded for how we kept this city safe. And now you throw in some terrible incidents. You throw in a lot of agendas stoking fires. There's some truth too. But we all have to come together here and decipher the truth from the agendas and figure a way out of this.
SHEA is also calling the surge in gun violence on the streets of the Big Apple a perfect storm. He's blaming prisoner releases, shut down courts, and, quote, a lot of politics for the increase. An update tonight on the investigation into the fire that badly damaged the historic San Gabriel mission located not far from Los Angeles. The fire department, police, FBI, and the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms are digging through the rubble to determine what caused Sunday's blaze. They know it started in the choir loft, but don't know why. Officials are saying it's going to take a significant amount of time to complete the probe. The nearly 250-year-old mission was founded by St. Junipero Serra. Investigators are looking into any possible links between the fire and recent criticism of the saint and attacks on his statue elsewhere in California. Another mission founded by St. Sarah actually has a new honor tonight, thanks to Pope Francis. The Holy Father is elevating Mission San Buenaventura to the status of minor basilica, the first in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. The mission was founded by the saint on Easter Sunday in 1782. It was the last of 9 historic missions the Franciscan established in the state of California. Los Angeles Archbishop Jose Gomez is saying the Pope's action means the mission is holy ground, that something beautiful and important in the history of salvation happened here. Archbishop Gomez has defended St. Sarah in the past weeks. An important new step-by-step guide is going out to Catholic leaders around the world. Inside, directions for bishops on how to best protect children by crackdown on allegations of abuse. The handbook is a direct result of the global summit called by Pope Francis. Melissa Butts has the story from St. Peter's Square.
There is a new instruction manual for bishops handling cases of sexual abuse within the Catholic Church. It includes an action plan, rules for communication, and all possible outcomes of what could happen. One of the problems of the abuse scandal by clergy in the Catholic Church is when the victim tells the bishop what happened, but he doesn't know how to proceed. To avoid this, the Vatican published this manual in 6 languages. It explains how bishops should act, giving a direct path to follow, no matter what happens in each particular case.
Many times they ask us, what should I do? That is why we thought and had been asked numerous times to make a practical guide for a bishop or superior who has to manage this problem, so he knows how to proceed and what to do in the different stages.
For example, every complaint should be investigated, and the victim asked to also report to the police. Once a cleric has a claim of abuse against him, the bishop must also report him to law officials. The accused member of clergy should not be transferred to a different city or parish. The victim and his relatives cannot be asked to remain silent, and they should be updated about how the process is going.
We cannot leave victims in the dark. We must inform them on how the process ended. If not, it is a lack of respect for the victim.
The document was requested by bishops from around the world who attended the February 2019 Summit Against Abuse in Rome, organized by Pope Francis. However, this document doesn't make any definite changes. In fact, it reminds bishops to investigate every single claim of abuse they hear, and also to report everything to law authorities, even in countries where it's not required. At the Vatican, Melissa Butts, Currents News.
Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg is at home tonight and doing well. The 87-year-old was taken to a hospital in D.C. Monday night after complaining of fever and chills. She was treated for a possible infection. Doctors cleaned out a bile duct stent that was put in last August when she was being treated for pancreatic cancer. She was released from Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. The liberal icon has survived several health scares. In 2018, cancerous nodules were removed from her left lung, and in the same year, she fractured 3 ribs after a fall in her office. There's a lot more news headed your way. New reports tonight on what's going up. One is good, the other is not. New help could be on the way to your house, and it might all come about because Congress is thinking about scrapping its vacation. An 11-year-old with a heart of gold, and single moms are grateful for him, especially these days. Despite the COVID crisis, retail sales in the United States popped in June at a rate that was better than expected. Consumers increased spending by 7.5%, and that was on top of a more than 18% jump in May. That was the biggest gain since the Fed started tracking those numbers. Retail sales are rebounding as businesses got back to business after being shut down in March because of the pandemic. Economists are warning the budding recovery is being threatened by the surge in new COVID infections and high unemployment. And that's where new numbers today aren't good. Weekly jobless claims topped the million mark for the 17th time in a row. More than 51 million Americans have filed for unemployment benefits since late March when the coronavirus tightened its grip on the country. Last week's surge of 1.3 million claims was higher than forecasted. Experts fear signs of long-term damage to the U.S. economy are beginning to mount. At the end of the month, a $600 per week boost to unemployment insurance is set to end. Congress may not be leaving the office as planned this August. They still have some work to do to keep the economy afloat. There's a push to have talks about another stimulus package to help the country cope with the current crisis. John Lawrence reports.
While schools across the country are working on plans on how to reopen, the House of Representatives might be delaying or skipping its August recess.
We have to have a bill, and we will have a bill, and hopefully we'll have it sooner rather than later because people really need to have it.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she's willing to stay in Washington to get another relief bill to President Trump.
This isn't about government and philosophy or any political differences of opinion. This is about meeting the needs of the American people at the time of a pandemic that has lost about 40 million jobs.
Lending a financial hand to the American workforce is something that has bipartisan backing.
We know we can't shut the economy down again. That cannot happen. We've learned there are consequences from being cooped up at home.
But, as always, it's a question of whether Republicans and Democrats come to an agreement. As the push for a proposal is in its early stages, Americans are attempting to cope.
My business still hasn't picked up. COVID seems to be getting worse and not better. So at least here in the city of Atlanta, we're in the process, it seems like, of going back to phase one.
You know, am I going to go out and buy something to eat, or am I going to purchase a medication, or am I going to, you know, save my funds to go to a doctor or put gas in my car?
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
An 11-year-old in Virginia is trying to do his part to boost the economy as well. He's focusing on a group hit hard by the pandemic, single moms. He set up a lemonade stand hoping each small cup will make a big difference. Chelsea Donovan has the story.
Lemonade! Snake bar! At the corner of Peabody and Hardy Cash, you'll find a group of determined kids.
We're raising money for single mothers that are struggling.
That's 11-year-old KERR, the leader of the Cardi Pack and CEO of this lemonade stand unlike any other.
I set out to sell lemonade, chips, candy, and all type of stuff that people want to come buy, and it's not expensive.
Each cup of the summertime drink and the goodies on the side all go to buy diapers.
The diapers, they're for mothers. They're for people that know people that have babies.
An unusual business model, but one that's working.
Of course, it's a shortage of Pampers and wipes in the stores because of the pandemic, and I mean, it couldn't have been a better time.
A rising sixth grader and his friends that could be out playing sports or riding bikes, but instead, they're helping single mothers in the community.
It's a lot of grown-ups out there that's not doing what we're doing.
As a parent, it makes me feel spectacular.
Cartier started the nonprofit Kids for Change 757 about a year ago.
Not only help older adults and all, but it's to help children also see that they can make change inside of their communities too.
About 12:30 on Wednesday, Cartier hit the shade and tallied up his sales. A whopping $2,200 made in just 3 days' time. a lucrative lemonade stand made possible by a little boy with a heart of gold.
You guys have a nice day. You too.
That was Chelsea Donovan reporting. Cartier and his friends say they will be working until the end of the week. Still to come on Currents News, a mom says her son saw the face of God and a miracle saved the boy's life. The heart of a Christian pastor is overwhelmed with joy. He survived 100 days in the hospital fighting for his life. When a 3-year-old Texas boy nearly drowned in the family pool, his parents feared the worst. But what the boy says about the experience when he finally came to is nothing short of a miracle. Lauren Linville has the story.
He said he talked to a big man through a window with a bright light. I mean, our son saw God that day.
A regular day at grandparents' pool in OKC turned tragic for the Kerr family. Graham, just 8 years old, spotted his 3-year-old brother JD at the bottom of the pool. He pulled him up and called for help.
We turned around and he was bringing us JD in his arms. JD was blue. His lips were blue, his hands were blue.
My hands blue?
Your hands were blue. He was gone.
JD's dad, Craig, a CPR certified firefighter, never thought he'd have to perform a life-saving measure on his own child. He brought JD back.
Kind of try to prepare yourself for everybody else's emergency, never really your own until it happens.
JD was rushed to OU Children's Hospital where he was intubated. It wasn't long after doctors took out the tube that JD told his parents what happened.
He began to tell me that he said, I sneak. I said, what? He said, I sneak into the pool yesterday. It just broke my heart at that point because I didn't think we'd actually ever know what really happened.
Jenna and Craig were the only adults in the pool at the time. They want others to take something away from their story.
If it not have been for the floaties, then, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind we would have been able to see him try to sneak into the pool.
I think there needs to be an adult that is not swimming, is not occupied with anything else, and is just kind of watching the yard, watching your pool.
JD will randomly tell his mom and dad more things about that day.
He's told us some other things, like what he saw while he was asleep. He said that the big bear told him to come back home to his mom and dad and go fast. That's coming from our 3-year-old.
That was Lauren Linville reporting. JD's lungs are healing well, and doctors say he'll be back to normal in no time. And finally tonight, an Ohio parish is also rejoicing after their pastor came home from a 100-day hospital stint with COVID. Pastor Jonathan Mitchell of the Faith Fellowship Church of God was in the intensive care unit on a respirator before making a recovery. When he was finally released, he stopped by his parish. His flock was there to surprise him, waiting to welcome their shepherd home.
My goodness, my heart is overwhelmed.
We love you.
Yes. We love you. My heart is overwhelmed with joy.
Mitchell hopes to be back at work by July 26th. He says that first sermon will be one to rock the boat. And that is Currents News. I'm Emily Druby. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.